Welcome to Olympian Water Testing, giving you the best in water analysis. Today we're looking at state of the planet where chromium-6, also known as hexavalent chromium, was found in the tap water of 31 U.S. cities. That's quite a lot. 31 out of 35 U.S. cities were analyzed by the Environmental Working Group, that's the EWG, which released the results of its tests. And they were looking for chromium-6 or hexavalent chromium, which is a carcinogen. And chromium-6 is the chemical made from the infamous movie Erin Brockovich about the residents of Hinckley, California, who won $333 million damages in 1996 from Pacific Gas and Electric for polluting their drinking water with chromium-6. And it is highly toxic and has been found to cause allergic dermatitis and stomach and gastrointestinal cancer in animals and humans. And it's used in the manufacture of stainless steel, textiles, anti-corrosion coating, and leather tanning. And it gets into drinking water through industrial pollution, and it's also present naturally in some minerals. After the National Toxicology Program found chromium-6 caused cancer in rats and mice in 2008, California proposed the establishment of a statewide legal limit of 0.06 parts per billion of chromium-6 on December 31st. And the Office of Environmental Hazard Assessment of California's Environmental Protection Agency revised its proposed limit to 0.0 parts per billion because of new findings about the vulnerability of young children and sensitive populations to chromium-6. The EPA also classified chromium-6 as likely to be carcinogen to humans when ingested through drinking water in a draft review of the chemical, but does not require water utilities to test for it, nor has it established safe legal limits for the chemical. And that's why this is a bit concerning. Even though these agencies are taking a look at it in California and the EPA, it was found in drinking water of 31 of 35 U.S. cities, analyzed by the Environmental Working Group. And that's something that we need to take quite seriously. In its test, the EGW found that 25 of the cities tested had levels of chromium-6 higher than California's original proposed limit of 0.0 parts per billion. And now all 31 cities with chromium-tainted waters have higher levels than California's new proposed limit of 0.02 parts per billion. And the highest levels of chromium-6 were found in Norman, Oklahoma, which measured 12.9 parts per billion. They also found Honolulu, Hawaii, at 2 parts per billion, Riverside, CA at 1.69 parts per billion, Madison 1.58 parts per billion, and San Jose measured at 1.3 parts per billion. The utilities that service these 31 cities whose tap water contain chromium-6 provide water to over 26 million people. This is why this is such an issue worldwide. It's not particularly to one region, and it's definitely something that you need to be aware of. In fact, the EWG believes the actual number of people drinking chromium-6 contaminated tap water is much larger. If you've seen Erin Brockovich, you can understand why this is an issue. Now, this could still be an issue in your city. According to 2009, the analysis of drinking water, 74 million people drank tap water polluted with total chromium. 74 million people is a huge amount. So this is definitely something to take a look at, especially with chromium-6. Total chromium includes trivalent chromium, that is chromium-3, which occurs naturally in many vegetables, fruits, beans, grains, and yeast, as well as the toxic chromium-6. Preliminary tests have found that most of the total chromium water is chromium-6, yet the EPA's legal limit for total chromium is 100 parts per billion, 5,000 times higher than California's new proposed limit for chromium-6. And currently, California is the only state that requires testing specifically for chromium-6. In other states, water utilities only test for total chromium. So they might say, oh, the total chromium looks okay. It could be chromium-3, or it could be an abundance of 6. And that's the issue. And they only measure amounts above 100 parts per billion, 500 times higher than California's new proposed limit. However, the heels on the EWG's findings, the EPA is urging, though not yet requiring, water utilities around the country to test for chromium-6. And the EPA has done a lot of research on chromium-6. They have their information about chromium-6 on their website, and that's definitely something you can take a look at. But the issue is, even though they're aware of it, they're not necessarily requiring testing for it. And most states, except California, are only measuring total chromium. And the agency will provide technical assistance to 31 cities that were found to have chromium-6 contaminated water, as more sophisticated testing techniques are required. The EPA is also studying whether it should set a limit for chromium-6 in drinking water. Lisa Jackson, EPA administrator, said the once reassessment completed in 2011, the EPA will likely tighten drinking water standards to address health risks posed by chromium-6. So now that you know that chromium-6 is found in a lot of tap water, maybe it's even in your tap water as 74 million people are drinking it, And in their analysis, 31 out of 35 U.S. cities had chromium-6, which is a carcinogen. This is definitely cause for concern. That's why it's always a good idea to periodically have your water tested for high levels of chromium-6.